Gus is more than a character. He's a concept. He is the embodiment of control. A man who built an empire so huge and well-oiled that it operated like a ghost within the system. His meticulousness was legendary. His caution, absolute. Gus didn't make mistakes, at least not twice. And yet, the thrill of watching his story unfold both forwards in Breaking Bad and backwards in Better Call Saul is found in the terrifying moments where his perfect machine sputtered, where the ghost was almost seen, and where the man himself came inches from death. Gus's reign was defined not just by his successes, but by the astonishing number of times he almost lost it all. His first and most persistent threat was, of course, the law, personified by the relentless mineral-loving bulldog, Hank. In the beginning, Gus was so far off Hank's radar he might as well have been on another planet. He was the polite, community-minded owner of a beloved chicken franchise, a man who donated to the DEA's fun run. He was hiding in the most brilliant place imaginable, plain sight, but the threads began to appear. When Hank connected the dots between Gail's meticulous veganism and a napkin from Los Palos Hermanos found in his apartment, the first crack in Gus's fortress appeared. It was a flimsy connection, based on little more than a hunch, but it was enough to put Gus in the same room as his hunter. That interview at the DEA office remains one of the most masterful scenes in the entire saga. We knew everything. We knew Gus was a meth kingpin, a murderer, a monster of pure, cold logic. But as he sat there, exuding a quiet dignity and practiced vulnerability, he was almost untouchable. He spun a tale of an innocent business owner, a supporter of law enforcement, and a man deeply saddened by the scourge of drugs. He even weaponized his own tragic backstory, the loss of his partner Max, twisting it into a plausible motive for his charitable work. He played Hank's own colleagues against him, making Hank's gut feeling look like obsessive paranoia. For a moment, it worked. Gus walked out of his office a free man, having looked the devil in the eye and convinced him he was an angel. But it was a near miss. The ghost had been forced to materialize, and Hank, despite being professionally neutered, was not convinced. The cat and mouse game only escalated. When Hank, recovering from his brutal encounter with the cousins, found Gus's fingerprint on a Polo's cup in Gail's apartment, the thread became a rope. This was tangible. This was real. Driven by an instinct that bordered on the supernatural, Hank got Walt's help to plant an illegal tracking device on Gus's car. This sequence was Gus at his most exposed. He knew he was being watched. The tense drive, the stop in the middle of the road, the walk to the rooftop overlooking the chicken farm. It was a calculated test. Gus knew Hank was watching, but he didn't know how. He was blind, a feeling he despised. He had to call off a meeting, disrupt his own perfectly calibrated schedule, and even reveal a sliver of his operational vulnerability to Walt. He ultimately outmaneuvered Hank by leading him on a wild goose chase, but the victory was a hollow one. The DEA was no longer a distant problem. It was on his car, on his tail, and in his head. While Hank chipped away at the foundation of his empire, a far more immediate and violent threat came from his rivals. Long before Walt became a problem, the cartel was a constant simmering danger. The most intelligent and terrifying of them all, Lalo, was the first person to truly see the ghost. In Better Call Saul, we witnessed the genesis of Gus's deep fears. Lalo was not a man to be fooled by a smile and a chicken bucket. He sensed something was wrong with the story about Werner Ziegler. He investigated, he pushed, he found the truth. The assassination attempt at Lalo's house in Mexico was Gus's first major brush with death, a failure of his own intelligence network that he had orchestrated. Though he wasn't physically present, his entire strategy hinged on its success. When Lalo survived and made that chilling, unforgettable call to Hector, Gus's world shattered. He now had his own ghost hunting him, a charismatic, psychopathic specter who knew his secrets and was coming for revenge. This failure forced Gus into a state of heightened paranoia that lasted for months, living in a sterile safe house, constantly watching the monitors, his composure frayed. Lalo's eventual arrival at the superlab was the ultimate showdown. For the first and perhaps only time, Gus was completely outplayed. Lalo had him dead to rights, holding him at gunpoint, forcing him to give a video tour of the secret lab that would have exposed him to Don Eladio. In those moments, Gus was no longer the calm, collected kingpin. He was a cornered animal. His survival was not a matter of superior intellect or strategy, but of sheer, desperate, pre-planned violence. The hidden gun, the severed power line, the shootout in the pitch-black darkness. It was messy, chaotic, and terrifying. Gus took a bullet, a physical reminder of how close he came to being another casualty in his own war. He won, but only just. Even his greatest victory against the cartel was a dance with death. The plan to poison Don Eladio and his capos was audacious, a move of breathtaking arrogance and risk. To sell the illusion, Gus had to drink from the poisoned bottle of tequila. We watched as the poison took hold, as the invincible Gus Fring collapsed, sweating and vomiting, his life entirely in the hands of Mike and a frantic Jesse. He bet everything on his own constitution, on Mike's efficiency, and on a pre-staged emergency medical station. Had any one of those elements failed, had the cartel guards been a few seconds faster, his story would have ended right there in a Mexican swimming pool. Which brings us to the man who knocks, who Gus absolutely underestimated. As their partnership devolved into a Cold War, Walt became the most unpredictable variable Gus had ever encountered. The first direct attempt on Gus's life was the car bomb at the hospital. It was a good plan, taking advantage of an orchestrated and vulnerable situation. Gus was walking towards his Volvo, towards certain annihilation. He was feet away. What saved him? Not an informant, not a piece of intel, but pure animal instinct. That sixth sense, honed by decades of paranoia, kicked in, and he simply walked away. It was an incredible, almost psychic moment of self-preservation, a testament to the hypervigilance that had kept him alive for so long. He dodged a killing blow through sheer intuition. But no ghost can outrun his own humanity forever. After surviving Hank, Lalo, and Walt's bomb, Gus's downfall was tragically poetic. It wasn't a tactical error or a failure of intelligence that killed him. It was his one, all-consuming emotional weakness, his hatred for Hector, and his need for revenge. When he learned from Tio's nurse that Hector was supposedly talking to the DEA, Gus saw the ultimate checkmate, the opportunity to stand before his crippled nemesis, the man who murdered his partner, and gloat as he delivered the final, fatal blow was too tempting to resist. In that nursing home, all his legendary caution evaporated. He let his men sweep the room, but his focus was singular. He was so consumed by the moment, by the venomous monologue he was delivering to Hector, that he didn't see the real trap. He didn't question the sudden coherence of his enemy. He didn't see the bomb. He heard the frantic ringing of the bell and, for a fleeting second, his face registered the horrifying realization that he had finally been outplayed. The man who survived assassins, cartels, and the DEA was undone by his own pride. It was the one near miss he couldn't walk away from. The one time his luck, his intellect, and his instincts all ran out at once. The ghost was finally given a face, only for it to be blown clean off.